Learning to Fly Naked While Mastering Your Brilliance. Now, I can tell you, the title may be a little racy, but I can guarantee there'll be no removal of clothing here. But I've come to believe that it's our birthright to actually begin to fly open, free, vulnerable. It's actually started when we were very young. There was a study back in 2018, and the article said at 4 years old, we see self-esteem rising as cognition and also abilities began to improve. Now that reminds me of a video, went viral in March 2017. And in that video, if you can remember, Dad was reporting on the news, and he's looking serious. And in comes his 4-year-old daughter, and she's just sauntering into the room and just bold, literally in her zone of brilliance. And behind her comes a little 1-year-old brother, and he's just in his little walker with all the little wheels around, trying to keep up with big sis. But all of a sudden, here comes Mom bursting into the room, trying to go grab the 4-year-old, grab the 1-year-old, all for the entire world to see, just stark on camera. And at that time, it was reported at 50+ million views and counting when that was reported. Now, we can see children, when they're young, they're curious, they're hopeful, they're excited, and just completely present, irregardless, for the most part, of their environment. No fear, doesn't matter. That reminds me of my story. I'll never forget, picture it, 18 years old, sitting in the guidance counselor's office. And the guidance counselor looks at me and says, "Now, Kevin, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I'm sitting there and I say, "President of the United States." I threw my head back. Because after all, I made straight A's in school, right? I didn't have to study. So why would I not get in this program? I was being evaluated for gifted and talented. I thought I'd get in. Not. Didn't happen. However, I digress. Look at me. I'm bold. I'm certain. I'm 8 years old. I'm confident. And I'm sitting in my zone of brilliance. Didn't have to tell me anything. But wouldn't you know it? Life always seems to happen. About a year later. Nerd! Well, I know he's not talking to me. No, you geek. Hey, what are you doing? You messing up the curve. And every day, I kept hearing these jeers. Now, you got to understand, I'm in my zone of brilliance, right? The adults told me I'm supposed to be smart. I'm supposed to knock the test out. Why are they calling me every name other than Kevin? And every day, I would pray, I never forget in the middle of the night, God, I think you made a mistake when you made me. I think you made a mistake. Please, just take care of Mom and Dad and get me out of here. And every day, I woke up. See, when life happens to us, it could be verbal abuse, physical abuse. We could be completely ignored. If we're not careful, and you're like me, and we happen to believe what they say more than we know who we really are, we can find ourselves diminishing our hopes and dreams. We can find ourselves not really being who we really are. And see, rather than loving, we can ask ourselves, are we even enough? Rather than really trusting, we could begin to have trust issues. And rather than truly rocking our zone of brilliance, just like I did, turn off that switch, play safe, and hope everything will be okay. Well, to really learn to fly naked, it's going to take about 3 things to truly achieve this, to get back to who we really know ourselves to be. But I'm going to ask you a question. What's that thing that they've always complimented you on? That thing you know what I'm talking about. All your life, you always heard, "Ooh, when you do that, nobody does it like you." Your zone of brilliance. So that brings me to point number 1. Reconnect to when you were young. And that's where the confidence lies. Remember that little girl, the little 4-year-old, not thinking about anything, just being herself? See, we don't have to create it. Let's just tap in. That brings me to Oprah Winfrey. And when Oprah started, she was a host. Oprah Winfrey's a talk show host in the United States, 25 years. And it was reported that she actually interviewed over 37,000 people, catching and snatching hearts all over the world. However, before that Oprah became Oprah, Oprah said, you know, I used to kind of follow Barbara Walters. That's my mentor. So one day she didn't read her news copy and she's on the air. And as she was talking, instead of saying Canada, she said, Canada. And she laughed at herself and kind of said, you know, I kind of like who I am. And she began to fall in love with her personality and now began sourcing and connecting to who she really was, not outsourcing it to another person. And that was the beginning of the Oprah who began to build an empire where most of us may be humiliated on camera. Oh my God, I'm too nervous to do anything and be seen. She made a living and a legacy on being open, fluid, and learning in front of everybody and not caring whatever happened. I'm going to ask you, which Oprah are you? Brings me to point number 2. If you really want to learn and fly naked and really tap back into that confidence, got to understand this is not, it's going to happen. We're going to fall on the journey. And accepting that we will fall is just part of the process. You see, there's no right, there's no wrong. We may hear about, let's get things perfect. But what's happening is when we're falling, what we're actually doing is actually building the muscle, the capacity of our zone of brilliance. That brings me to Steve Jobs. Back in 1976, he co-founded Apple, and he was reported to be one of the smartest men in the room, completely thinking outside the box. However, in all his smartness, he found himself ousted out of Apple, and then next thing you know, he had to begin to do something different. However, because he kept in his own zone of brilliance, regardless of where he was, he began to say, what's next in line? What's coming up? And they brought him back on, and when they did, he helped with the campaign, Think Different. And in his zone of brilliance comes the iPad, the iPod, the iPhone, and every other I that could come through Apple with Steve in his zone of brilliance. So if we were to step back and look at this, and rather than think, oh my gosh, I fail, and I'm falling and stand down for years, what if we were to actually reframe and look at that and say, wait a minute, this is how we learn. Like these things are supposed to happen. Could we then begin to think different, such as Steve? Because if we did that, that right there is understanding. Now we can say, what's our next move? What are we going to do so that we can truly begin to soar with the wisdom of all our lessons learned, as well as the confidence we're already tapped into? Just asking. That brings me to point number 3. To really learn to fly naked, there's a call, and everyone knows inside what we should be doing. It's going to require that we actually begin to walk in that direction, answer the call, regardless of who's watching or the costs. That reminds me here of Martin Luther King, who did that best in his nonviolent movement crusade that we saw back in the 1950s and 60s. Now, all he wanted to do was just make it okay so that whites and blacks could have equal opportunity, work together in a place where everybody had living rights that were great, things that, just regular, let me be, let me prosper using this. However, in the middle of, I have a dream, there were calls where people were worried about what's going to happen if people in power. If we do this, what could happen to our legacy? I have a dream. And you got to understand, he didn't have a roadmap. So he's out here flying, and all he had was the vision and what was inside of himself. And it was not exactly always clear. I have a dream. And the cost that he had were cost of naysayers going, I think you're too loud. Your safety may be impacted. In fact, our safety is impacted because you're making too much noise. I have a dream. And the dream he had, flying naked, was truly just operating in a zone of brilliance. answering the call, regardless of the cost that he ultimately had to pay with his life. See, in 1968, picture this, there was a Harris poll that was taken, and the Martin Luther King that we all celebrate today was 75% disapproval rating, meaning that when the I have a dream was at the cost of everything, and it was not pretty. Brings me back to my story. Once I kind of got past my issues, took me years later, I began to tap into my own strength, tap into my brilliance. Then I began helping organizations, helping other people. I'll never forget, I met this lady, 50 years old, married, 2 beautiful children, and yet, as we were working together, her biggest issue was, I'm afraid to be on camera. I'm afraid to speak. I don't know if people really hear me. In fact, from my background, I don't know if I really matter. But through feedback, perseverance, and some work, I was able to help her identify, here are your strengths, beautiful, but also paths forward, so she could begin to manifest and stand in her zone of brilliance. And what I love now, not only is she riding it strong and being who she is in her brilliance, but now she's paying it forward to other people and really recognizing she does matter. So she's doing the same. In closing, to truly begin to operate in your zone of brilliance, I'm going to ask you, what happened? Where did life sometimes come in, and every now and then it may have made you switch it off, or even perhaps forgot that it was even there? You know the place. Only you know that. You see, to truly be in your zone of brilliance, it demands that we return to that inner childlike confidence. To truly begin to master your zone of brilliance, it really demands that we begin to answer the call inside of us, no matter who's looking or what it may cost, to truly master your zone of brilliance. It demands that not only we answer the call, but that we look at reconnecting to being more of who you are, regardless who's watching. May look funny, may look odd, but be more of you. Because when you do that, you'll find that, that person I always kind of wanted to be, it's just right there waiting. So choose you this day. Fly naked while mastering your zone of brilliance. And when you do that, let's embrace our vulnerability. I'm not quite sure. Embrace that thing while still mastering it and shining in it no matter what. Because the wisdom of our setbacks as well as our successes, that's how we can begin to serve the world from our highest humanity and our best selves. Thank you.